So good morning again, and we're going to have a quick press conference. Some of you heard, certainly, who are here this morning, us talk about some of the great work that we continue to do for the Hauppauge Industrial Park as an advocate. We're here today to announce our continued partnership with the Suffolk County Industrial Development Agency. They could not be better people to work with. So I know John is here, Regina's here, a bunch of them are here from the county. We'll hear from Teresa Ward in a second. And our partnership with the Regional Planning Association to create an opportunity analysis to really look at the Hauppauge Industrial Park and its economic power and how it can help with our long-term growth, how it can help with our long-term competitiveness. So how this began, and you'll hear from Joe Campolo in a second, is about 2 years ago, we really looked at, what is the economic impact of the industrial park in general, and we sought out Stony Brook, and I forgot your first name. Cynthia? Cynthia is here on behalf of Anne Marie Scheidt, so thank you, who did 4 phases with us to look at the industrial park and related to local Long Island, certainly Suffolk County, obviously, and equally as important, New York State. And I have to tell you that the results were absolutely staggering. So we've always known 55,000 employees, 1,300 companies. We know now that 1 in 20 jobs is dependent upon the Hauppauge Industrial Park. We know that $4 billion in payroll, $14 billion in sales volume, $64.5 million in annual levied property taxes, a major economic engine. So as you know, our purpose at the HIA-LI, and these gentlemen spoke all morning about us actively advocating, is to really get additional funding and an improved infrastructure and certainly improved resources for this jewel. It is a jewel that right now does not get a lot of attention. So let me also, again, publicly thank our Hauppauge Industrial Park Task Force, led by Joe Campolo with Jack Kolka and Rich Human and Jim Coughlin and Bob Corte, who really has helped us with this vision and helped us move it forward. And I'm going to welcome up, actually, our new board chair, Joe Campolo, and the Hauppauge Industrial Park board chair as well, to talk a little bit about how this project, this brainchild started, and what he believes it will really mean to Long Island. So help us welcome up Joe Campolo.
Good morning, everyone. So we're just coming out of our annual meeting and our legislative breakfast, and the themes that came out of there is 2018 is a new year for Long Island, and that there's going to be leadership. Okay, leadership was a big theme that we discussed. There's going to be accountability, and there's going to be collaboration, and there's going to be partnerships. Okay, and what we have done and what we are continuing to do at the HIA-LI and in the context of this economic impact statement is we are trying to show that as a business organization, we are willing to put our money and our time where our mouths are to be able to effectively partner with our elected officials and our organizations and institutions here on Long Island that are all working to try and create a friendly economic development platform on Long Island. So what we did is we engaged with Stony Brook University, 3 MBA students for the last 2 years to help us start looking at what is the economic impact of the Hauppauge Industrial Park on this region, okay, and comparing it to other regions as well. And Terry gave you some of the numbers, but one of the most staggering things that I think we should all be aware of is the Hauppauge Industrial Park is the second largest industrial park in the country, second only to Silicon Valley. That's an amazing statistic. If you think about how much notoriety and publicity Silicon Valley gets, okay, and how little notoriety and value the Hauppauge Industrial Park gets, that will change. But we can't do it alone. We need partners, we need collaboration, and we have found incredibly great friends that are willing to partner with us on this important mission. Most notably, Stony Brook University has partnered and given us time and resources to devote from it. The Suffolk IDA and the RPA have been great friends and great partners. And our elected officials have been incredibly supportive for us. New Town of Smithtown Supervisor Ed Wareheim has been incredible. Suffolk County Executive Steve Ballone has been a friend and partner to the park and has been incredible. And we are reaching out today, the olive branch, to all of our elected officials to say, we are here, we care, we want to advocate for Long Island business. We want to help our children stay on Long Island and keep it affordable. And we are willing to give you valuable time and advice and insight from the business community, but we need your help as well to bring us into that dialogue, to bring us into that conversation, so that decisions that are being made that affect all business owners on Long Island have actual business owners' input into it, from the largest group of businesses on Long Island, the HIA-LI. So I'm incredibly proud to have been voted in the chair of this board of directors. I am incredibly excited to be working with Terry and Jack and everybody else, and I am openly inviting every single person on Long Island, elected, administrative, universities, anybody who's interested in helping partner with us to make Long Island and continue to become the dynamic economic engine that this region so desires and so deserves. So my hat's off to everybody that's working on this with me. I love this project, I love Long Island, and certainly we look forward to a fantastic 2018 at the HIA-LI.
Thank you. And help us welcome up Commissioner and Deputy County Executive of Economic Development and Planning and IDA Chair, Teresa Ward.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Terry. You know, you're such a committed partner for us in Suffolk County and the IDA, and thanks for your leadership with HIA and HIA-LI. You're truly one of the region's most recognized and respected voices for business. Excuse me. And you know, we know that the Hauppauge Industrial Park is one of the most important economic engines for Suffolk County, and County Executive Ballone really recognized that 5 years ago when the county began investing over $80 million in infrastructure in the park to really ensure that the companies in the park could continue to grow. And the county's investment combined with the recent passage of the zoning change in Smithtown, the overlay zoning, really has set up the park to be on the cusp of a new era of growth for Suffolk County to bring even more jobs and investment to the county. And you know, the RPA's work will be very important, analyzing and demonstrating the opportunities created by these investments, and it will highlight that potential growth based on those findings and best practices from around the country to really make sure that the park meets the needs of today's companies, but also anticipates the future markets and demands that that the region will need to create that to continue to feed that economic engine for decades. Anyway, Suffolk County, the IDA, we're pleased that we could help facilitate this project, and we look forward to working with you and all the stakeholders. Thank you.
And you know, I'm going to go a little out of order, and actually, Mike, I'm going to put you on the spot to say a few words for us. So Assemblyman Mike Fitzpatrick, many of you know, good friend to the HIA-LI, was on the panel that we just had and is a huge advocate for the park. So.
Thank you, Terry. It's always great to participate in today's breakfast, but this document that has been announced today, it shows that the business of Long Island, the business of Suffolk County, is business. And a strong business climate strengthens our tax base. And when you have a strong tax base, you have an environment where families can thrive, companies can thrive, companies want to come to Long Island, they want to grow on Long Island, and it allows us to provide better housing opportunities for our millennials, which is what we're trying to do in Smithtown, and create alternative forms of housing and opportunities so that today's companies can attract the employees they need and revive our downtowns. So I am very happy to be part of this, and I support it strongly. I want to thank County Executive Ballone. He's been a strong supporter and a friend, and he's always helpful and there for us. And I'm very happy that we have a new supervisor in Smithtown, Ed Wareheim, who is a dear friend, an old friend of mine, who is deeply rooted in the town of Smithtown and cares very much for its future and is willing to roll up his sleeves and do whatever it takes to make this industrial park and this region the strongest it can be. And when you're the second largest industrial park in the country after Silicon Valley, that says something. So we are serious here in Smithtown about the business climate, and I know we have good partners to make things better in the future, and growth is what it's all about. And with the new tax policy coming from Washington is going to be helpful, I believe, as well. In the long term, it is exactly what we need in order to bring our local and state government into compliance. Today, ladies and gentlemen, states like New York have to compete for their successful and productive citizens. I don't use the term wealthy or rich. I use successful and productive. So capital moves to where it's most wanted and best treated, and we are endeavoring now in the state as well as here locally to welcome capital here on Long Island. So thank you very much for having me.
So many of you know 3/4 of the park actually sits in the town of Smithtown, and Ed Wareheim, the new town supervisor, came to our board meeting and we had a follow-up breakfast, and we were really delighted to hear him say things like, we have skin in the game, we will be there for you, we believe in what needs to happen, not only in this industrial park, but with improving business. So you're a breath of fresh air, I have to tell you, and we're really excited to work with you. So help us welcome up the town of Smithtown supervisor, Mr. Ed Wareheim.
Good morning. Thank you, Terry and Joe and Jack, for having me here. As Terry said, I'm newly elected, but I've been in Smithtown for 40 years in Smithtown government. Worked as Parks Director for 33 years and then went on the town board. So I am intricately involved and have the knowledge of how important the Hauppauge Industrial Park really is. It's the lifeblood of Smithtown, has been since its inception. As goes the HIA, so goes Smithtown. I know that. I am going to make sure that our town board members know that. And we look forward to working with the HIA, with the new study, which I think is tremendous, and trying to work with them to accomplish what they need from us on a governmental level. And I'm happy to hear at the legislative breakfast this morning that they are also willing to help us in government, let us know what they need so we can get that to them to make this park a success. So thank you very much for being here, and have a great day.
So it was also at a breakfast, yes, that we talked to one of our partners, the CEO of Long Island Builders Institute, Libby, Mitch Pally, who has over the years done much work with us about the opportunity to put rental apartments in the Hauppauge Industrial Park. Why is that important, right? So we heard 71% of the children now on Long Island are looking at moving out, and we need to continue to look at how to bring really places where they can live, they can work, they can play. So this is very, very important. And one of the components we will look at through the opportunity analysis with the Regional Planning Association. So help me welcome up the CEO of Libby, Mr. Mitch Pally.
Thank you, Terry. The demographics of Long Island is changing. The Millennial Report from this week signifies what Long Island needs to do to keep our young people here. Our young people want a different lifestyle than the one that we enjoyed. That doesn't make it better or worse, it just makes it different. And Long Island has not yet had that opportunity to do that in the numbers necessary. We've had tremendous successes in Patchogue, in Port Jefferson, in Westbury, in Mineola, hopefully soon Hicksville, but there's no reason the HIA and the Hauppauge Industrial Park cannot also be a tremendous success in integrating where people work and where people live and where people recreate. And this study gives us all an opportunity to look at the park area in 2018, today, and say, what's the best use for all of the property that is there? And we strongly believe that rental housing can be an integral part of making the park even better than it is today. And we look forward to working with Terry and Joe and the supervisor and Mike and everyone here to make that happen. With my other hat, as the Suffolk County representative to the MTA board, I would wish I could get them a railroad station. But I may not be able to get them a railroad station, but I may be able to get them electrification to Port Jefferson, which will also help. As the supervisor is shaking his head, yes, he knows what that means for Smithtown Station and the Stony Brook Station and the Port Jefferson Station and the Huntington Station. So all of these things working together is going to fashion a new HIA-LI and a new Hauppauge Industrial Park to make it even better than it is today. And from those of us at Libby, we look forward to making that happen with you. Thank you very much.
So, for those of you who are here from the press, I know there's a few of you, we certainly have the results of the beginning of that economic impact study. You can see Mark Grossman, our PR agency, to give you that. Again, our next step we're very excited about is continuing to partner with the Suffolk IDA and the Regional Planning Association to really look at what is the opportunity here and how do we develop an eco-industrial park for the 21st century. So thank you again for coming. We do have a few quick moments for questions. If anybody does have, who has? James, yes? First question.
James Medora with Newsday. Can you talk a little bit more about the study itself? My readers are aware of the success of the Stony Brook University study, which showed the importance of the industrial park. So explain exactly what are we studying now, and what is the hope in terms of what the residents of Long Island are going to see in the park in the future?
Absolutely. So, and I'm going to ask Joe to come up and talk a little bit about it as well. But, you know, the original studies did exactly, James, what you said, is to look at the actual economic impact the park had, which, as I mentioned, we all were absolutely shocked by, and we've been advocating for the park for many, many years, in hopes that what will happen is we are going out now and we will be getting funding. We will be looking at improved infrastructure and certainly other resources. So, you know, Mitch and a bunch of people talked about the ability to really keep these kids on Long Island. I mean, we see the Hauppauge Industrial Park as an opportunity to do that and really make a better connection to how they get jobs and where they get jobs and where they live. So I think what you'll see in this opportunity analysis is exactly that. I mean, what is the opportunity that we see? Whether it's, you know, anything from sidewalks to rental apartments to a sense of community where people can go in the industrial park and do something. So I'm going to ask you to answer the same.
Sure, and I can fill that a little bit. So as I mentioned in my prior remarks, one of the fascinating things that came out of this study is it's the largest industrial park that relates to Silicon Valley. So the first stage of this study was having students do research and crunch numbers and come up with what the forecasted economic impact was. The next stage of it was looking at, okay, if we're number 2 industrial park in the country, why are we number 2 and why is Silicon Valley number 1? And they did a very in-depth analysis of that. And one of the things they came out with was it's because of their collaboration with Stanford University, which makes sense because employers are looking for talent and graduates of colleges are looking for jobs. And so then sort of a light bulb went off after that phase 2 of the study to say, you know, how do we now collaborate with Stony Brook University directly? Because from our business owners' perspective, the number 1 challenge they have is getting and keeping good talent here on Long Island. And the number 1 challenge that Stony Brook has is making sure their graduates have good, solid jobs. So now that it's sort of shifted into a collaboration with the students to be surveying and really getting input from the existing students at Stony Brook right now as to what would they want to see in this industrial park to make them stay here on Long Island. What changes need to occur? How can we collaborate better between Stony Brook and the Hauppauge Industrial Park the way Silicon Valley does with Stanford? And that's the exciting part about this next phase now, because now we can move into, with that very relevant and critical feedback from them, we can move into the planning phase and the development phase with the IDA, with the RPA, with Libby, and other partners that are going to help us start making these implementations in the park to be able to make it a more attractive place for that talent to stay here on Long Island. So it's an incredibly important initiative. You know, we at the HIA hear everybody talking about millennials and hear everybody talking about brain drain and them leaving. What we are doing is rolling up our sleeves and trying to create our own ecosystem to create a solution in collaboration with Stony Brook to keep the best and the brightest and the talented here on Long Island. So that is the progression of the report and where we hopefully leads us to.
Yes, jump for just for a second. Yes.
Yeah, the industrial vacancy rate is one of the lowest it's been for a long time, and I know the park is jammed full of tenants. Have you talked to the big landlords like regular equity partners? Are you looking at redeveloping existing properties? There's no vacant land left in the park. So how is this housing going to happen? Is it going to be mixed use? Is it going to be on top of an industrial building? What's the actual, nuts and bolts of that?
Absolutely. You know, first thing, somebody alluded to it, I think, in the annual meeting, that the reason why this is such perfect timing to even look at this is because of the work really that the town of Smithtown did with us in creating the overlay district. So right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it 51 feet in the inskirts and 62 feet?
50 feet, 62 feet
along Motor Parkway. So, you know, we haven't dwelled that closely into it yet, but I can tell you that what we've been talking about, and Mitch will allude to it, is the ability to look at property that's already there and building up. There's a huge opportunity to do that, and there's also a huge opportunity because of the sewer expansion project, which I believe, if I remember correctly, Suffolk County put $42 million into that sewage expansion. So we are primed for growth. You want to talk a little bit more about the opportunity for rent?
All opportunities, I think, are on the table, whether that's mixed use in those facilities that already exist, in places around it. The supervisor was just talking about Motor Parkway, which is also incorporated into the overlay district. You obviously also have the Islip part of Motor Parkway. So we're looking at any opportunity we can to facilitate this. The park was built in the 50s, 60s, and 70s when everybody drove to work at the same time and left at the same time. That's not the lifestyle people want in the 21st century. So whatever we can do, think about the opportunity for somebody to walk to work at one of the hundreds of jobs, companies that are in the HIA Industrial Park. All of those opportunities are there. It's just a question of working with our partners to try to see how we can facilitate all of that. I don't think anything is off the table at the moment. And if we have to go back to the town of Smithtown and say, you know what, we now have to go to 65 feet, we'll go to the town of Smithtown and say that and explain to them why the town will benefit from that. So I'm not stuck, and I don't think Terry is stuck with the current zoning and the current height and whatever it is. That's what the study is going to facilitate and find out for us and say, what's the best way to accomplish this? As part of this, of HIA, Jimmy Coughlin, who is one of my officers, is integrally involved with this. We've had conversations with TriTech. We've had conversations with other major developers. All look at this as a great opportunity, and we want to try to facilitate that to the extent we can.
Yes, James had one more.
So can you talk about the time frame of the study? And is the principal objective to see how to build amenities for millennials, i.e. housing, entertainment? What about also looking at the actual composition of the businesses that you have in the park and strengthening the sectors that are there, i.e. pharmaceuticals?
So what we're told from the Suffolk IDA and RPA is this next phase will take us, the opportunity analysis itself will be a series of meetings, and will take us, they've told us, a full year to really look at segments of those types of opportunities. And absolutely not, we're not only looking at how we attract millennials, we will be having public meetings along the way in correlation with what happens with the RPA and the Suffolk IDA to really get input from people in the industrial park and ask them, what is it you need? Why is it you need it? How do you want to grow? So that will all be incorporated in what we do in the study itself. Yes.
Yeah, on that note, you heard about the overlay zone, which is a vital component to the success of the park. So we started with that probably 4 or 5 years ago, and that's when we decided to raise the height levels in the town zoning code to 62 feet along Motor Parkway and 50 feet with the interior of the park itself. And there was some spike in development into some different areas, such as recreational, which I don't think, if I'm correct, was there before. But you had some recreational components coming in there using some of the space in those buildings. So the overlay zone is something that the town of Smithtown worked on with the HIA, and it shows that working together we can be successful. And as Terry mentioned, Mitch, if we do have to go, or if this study states that we need to make additional changes in the zoning, then the town of Smithtown is welcome for them to come in and make that application.
So thank you again all for coming. We look forward to sharing the information and getting your feedback. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.